G'day guys, I'm D-Mac from NBA Fantasy Bible and welcome to Between Two Hoops. Today we don't have Kayla, but we do have a very special guest, Papi Roi. Papi Roi in the house, how are you, my friend?
Cool. What's up, D-Mac? How's everyone?
Doing really well. Great to see you again. It's just in the thick of things in terms of mock drafts, and we're going to do another Yahoo mock draft today. We are going into a public league, 12 team, 9 cat. A lot of these are being churned out at the moment, but for good reason. We've got roughly, 45 days until opening night, so super exciting. A lot of things still to play out, but it seems like I think the first probably half of most drafts are pretty stable. A lot of ADP data is shifting. However, it seems like there's a lot of stability up top, but down below when there's a lot of flyers and just a little bit of grayness and some question marks around some of the final rosters, I think there's room for improvement and room for movement around fantasy drafts. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think this season is gonna be kind of like a redemption season from last year. Because last year, to start off the season, there's a lot of players that aren't healthy, are out, or are iffy. So this season, all of those players are back. Now the question is, are gonna how's the public gonna respond to that? Are they trusting those players, or are they still gonna pave a way in drafting those guys?
Absolutely. And I know that there were quite a few guys that dominated at the end of last season, but as you know, there's a lot of silliness come the end of season. But guys like Amen Thompson, and they're getting a lot of hype at the moment, and for good reason. I love some of these late round picks, and I think it'll be really interesting just to review that tonight. We do have roughly 6 minutes or 5 minutes, I should say, until the draft room is ready to go. So I'm looking forward to that. Have you seen any trends and anything of note in your mock drafts that you've done?
Yeah, I guess couple of trends right now is actually people are choosing younger guys over older guys. So it seems like players like Jalen Johnson, players like Chet Holmgren has more love than the usual fantasy guys or the fantasy vets like Dame or like Donovan Mitchell, stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I think there's a couple of older guys that are going to maybe make for some interesting late round picks. CP3, he's been a fantasy darling of yesteryear. Obviously, last season, very disappointing at the Warriors, but with his new role at your beloved Spurs, could he be a target of yours?
Definitely, especially at his position. CP3, I think, is around round 10-ish, plus or give or take. Let me check which round is CP3. But nonetheless, in that specific area, there's few assist guys that you can actually draft. Actually, is ranked number 95 in Yahoo. So in that area, there's Rozier there, and there's Tyce Jones, and then your guy Jordan Poole. So I guess there are a couple of guards there. speaking of your
Absolutely.
guy, speaking of your guy, Dimac, I think this is gonna be the season. If you're paving away from Jordan Poole, he's gonna be my guy this year.
He's going to be your guy as well. I think there's a little bit more room for him to move now that Tyce Jones is gone. Obviously, they've got Bub Carrington there and a few other guys still remaining, but I've got a feeling that he will have a much improved season. It was a bit of a disaster last season. But yeah, let's see how that all plays out. But interesting to see where his ADP will land just before the start of the season as well. Any other interesting notes that you can point out?
Oh, in contrary to notes from other fantasy analysts that are trying to punt blocks because they're saying there's few block guys to draft. I think there's more this year. I think there's a good number. It's not as big as forwards or guards. I think you can still draft bigs without punting blocks. It's just about strategy and when to draft them because as always there's going to be a run of bigs later on, so it's just actually strategizing how to pick at least two of them.
Absolutely. And I know that a lot of the top value is very concentrated at the start of the first round, and A lot of guys are struggling at the end of the first round and even into the second round, just really deciding and settling on some of those guys. And sometimes it will come down to, I guess, health and where you think their health may lie in the season. But we've got around 2 minutes to go. We've got a couple of slots open, so hopefully they do get filled. We've got enough to draft, which is good. But yeah, anything else that you've seen with some of your real drafts? And have you gone into real drafts at the moment, Papi, or is it just mocking at this stage?
Just one, but that's slow draft. We haven't finished, so I don't know if it counts in terms of really practicing mocks or standard draft because we do it offline via Messenger. But with mock drafts, another thing that I notice is there's a lot of rosterable player in the last few rounds. So it's a matter of like really balancing which are upside guys or which upside guys has more floor than others because those are different things. You know, there's upside guy with high risk, or if there's an opportunity, they're definitely gonna, they're definitely gonna deliver probably. But there's also a chance that they won't, right? But there are upside guys with more floor, wherein usually they still provide decent value, maybe not top 100, but there's still an upside to provide more than that. So I guess those are a couple of names that I'll target.
Absolutely. And your Spurs, are you targeting anyone in particular on your Spurs?
Of course, I think Wemby is our main target, the target of everyone. But aside from Wemby, I think Devin Vassell needs to get some respect. He's the number two guy in the San Antonio Spurs. He did well last year. Usually, the main reason why people kind of like hate Vassell is because of the narrative that the Spurs is tanking or they won't play or they're bad. Plus, he was injured couple of seasons, so I do understand if they are they are keen of not drafting Devin Vassell, but I think he's one of the steals guy that can score. So usually steals guy does shoot from the outside and then that's it. So Devin Vassell on the other hand does both plus score. So I think it's a good target.
And what do you think of Stephon Castle? Is he worthy of a standard league pick?
Ah, not for now. Probably. I'm still rooting for him to possibly win Rookie of the Year. But in fantasy, I think he's gonna be one of the darlings down the road, like in the silly season. But for now, I'm not really keen of drafting him.
Right. And I know that he's a real fan favorite in terms of dynasty, but in terms of standard redraft, not so sure at this stage. Now, we are in the waiting room, which is fantastic. So the draft will start in 2 minutes. Now, let's look at our positions. You're picking at pick one. Need I say any more? It's going to be Wemby. Am I right?
For sure, it's gonna be Wemby. I think I'm
Um,
gonna do a punt, field goal, punt, turnover build for Wemby.
Now, that was what I was going to ask you. Now, do you go into certain drafts thinking of a punt in mind straight away, or do you look to be balanced and see what falls to you and then look to punt from that direction?
So I have like a hierarchy of strategy when going to drafts. The first level strategy is to observe the whole draft rankings. So how I see value per rounds. As of the moment, I try to pick, hey, I think worst case scenario, this is the build that I can go to if I panic or whatnot. And then the second level is just again really analyzing the value per round that happens because it's subjective per league. So I don't initially punt directly, but the way I see it, based on value wise, at this position, early position, for Wemby, I think I'm gonna draft a lot of value if I punt field goal percentage and turnover, especially the first couple of rounds because there's a lot of good guards that if you're running away from turnovers, you might think twice. So I'm not gonna do that because there's a value there.
And when you draft, and we'll speak more about this as we get closer to opening night, but do you think of statistical scarcity when you do your initial picks? Do you think I need to get my assists really quickly? Obviously, going Wemby, but do you then load up and pair him with a high assist guy where possible?
Yeah. So usually I try to build uh points and assists initially, and then I observe if usually assists and points are the scarce ones. So I ramp up I ramp up to that, and then everything else I just adapt to what trend is actually happening during the actual draft. So
As you
I'm on
now
the
have
clock.
your first pick, you are on the clock.
Yeah, let's
So
do
no
Wemby.
brainer there. Yeah, no surprise. Wemby first, Jokic second. Who do you think should be taken third? Is this Doncic? Doesn't have the best fantasy playoff schedule, but would you still take him over SGA? And I know that you love SGA, but are you taking Luca over him?
Um, if it's a big time money league, I'd probably take SGA over Luca. If it's points league, definitely Luca. If it's any other leagues aside from if it's super serious big money leagues, I'd probably have fun and take Luca. But if it's
All right.
just for me, SGA has this couple of categories that is rare and undervalued. Like for example, free throws made. Though it kind of like dipped down last season, I still believe it's gonna stay or probably go up a little bit. He has steals. Oh, the only deficiency that SGA has is threes, which is easy to find. So I don't think if you have SGA, you have to punt snipes or whatever. So I still like SGA, but I think Luca is gonna go bunkers this year. It's going to be an MVP season for him. Pretty sure.
Yeah, there's a bit of redemption there, particularly in the finals. I have picked 12. Just recapping. So we're up to now pick 11, but we did Wemby, Jokic at 2, Doncic at 3, SGA at 4, Anthony Davis at 5, Giannis at 6, Halliburton dropped to 7th. Then 8th, we had Trey Young, so I think he's going to be in for a massive season this year. Jason Tatum at 9, Embiid at 10, Kyrie Irving at 11, bit early for me. I'm now on the clock. I'm going to take Steph Curry. And then on the return, I think there's been a bit of talk around Kevin Durant, and possibly now that Beal is relatively healthy and will be playing, perhaps there's a bit of a downturn for KD. I could take James Harden. Look, I'm going to stick with Durant. And I've started old, but I still like that build. Now, what do you think of Steph and Durant there, Papi?
Yeah, sure. I think Steph is gonna need to step up this year without Klay Thompson and essentially with a new JSW team with younger pieces right now with new members. So I'm expecting big things from Stephen Curry. The question there for me is it gonna be good for Steph's fantasy value? Because it could be, it has been always, but if he's taking a lot of load, then things could go wrong down the road. But again, these are just assumptions. Kevin
Yep.
Durant, on the other hand, I think free throws scoring is still there. The Phoenix Suns needs to win right now. The only catch there is how many games will he sit or rest. So if you kind of like evaluate him, deducting a couple of games, then you're good.
Just going after KD. So Devin Booker went after KD, followed by Domantas Sabonis, Scotty Barnes, James Harden went to Dylan. So James Harden's paired with Trey Young. So I really like that start, just really heavy on the assists. And again, talking about statistical scarcity, I think that's a nice way to go. Anthony Edwards. So he went after James Harden. What do you think of Ant? Now, I've been big on him not being an end of first round, start of second round sort of guy, but middle of second, do you think that's appropriate?
Well,
So he went at 18th, by the way. So is 18th about where you would take him?
I think I'm gonna take him early just because of the 10th category, which is games played.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, upside. I know there's a couple of things he needs to improve to really have great value. But then again, because of a lot of injuries that we've experienced in the last season, that 10th category of playing a lot of games is gonna matter. It's more of like safety over, players that could eventually rest or get injured, right? So I'd probably take him earlier than this. So this is a value for Matthew taking him at pick 18, right?
Yeah. So he's paired him with Tyrese Halliburton. So yeah, he's gone pretty young there. So fairly durable. I know Tyrese Halliburton had some concerns with his injuries last season, but yeah, still a young guy. So he should be fine there. Donovan Mitchell went after Anthony Edwards. Chet Holmgren went to Ralph. So Chet Holmgren with Anthony Davis. So he's gone heavy with the blocks and the big man strategy, followed by Damian Lillard, then LaMelo Ball, De'Aaron Fox, and you went Jaren Jackson Jr. to pair with Wemby. Now you've got on the turn, you've then taken Jalen Brunson. Talk us through those picks.
Yeah, so I guess if I have Wemby, hopefully I'd have Wemby in actual leagues. I'll definitely need to ensure that I'm gonna win blocks, because else, you're just wasting the Wemby pick. So I have to double down with him with Jaren Jackson. I think they're almost similar. It's just Wemby is an alien, right? So it's like Triple J is like the ET, and then Wemby is the new age alien. And then I have to really get a couple of. I really need a solid guard. I was thinking between Jalen Brunson and Fred VanVleet actually, but I went to Jalen Brunson. Given that Wemby is a good free throw shooter, that goes as well with Jaren Jackson. I wanted to also support that, so it's gonna be a good and rare combination wherein you get big man that can shoot and block, but can still shoot from the free throw. So
Absolutely.
that's my plan.
Do you think Jalen Brunson takes a hit or a big hit with Julius Randle returning this season? And they just stacked Julius Randle, Mikal Bridges as well at the Knicks.
Of course he's gonna take a hit, but I think he's gonna get his for sure. If there's gonna take more hit, it's gonna be the likes of Donde DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, possibly Mikal and OG. But Jalen Brunson's still gonna, have those games wherein he's almost like Allen Iverson of New York Knicks, right?
Now I've got to start thinking about my pick. I am now, as some people that follow me know, I'm big on J Dub, Jalen Williams. I think he's got another level to go to, so I'm going to take him there, and I'm going to double up. Now, I'm very big on Jalen Johnson as well, but I think I might go DeJounte Murray. Yes, the Pelicans, it's a little bit unclear as to how that's going to all play out, just with the plethora of talent on that team. But what do you think of DeJounte's outlook? He's been moved across to the Pelicans. Now that he's away from Trey, does he have an uptick in assists, an uptick in rebounds as well, now that Capella's not there and Pelicans don't really have a real big dominant center?
Uh, so here's the thing. I think it's going to be something different to start of the season, given that Brandon Ingram's still there. There's a lot of mouths to feed. But for some reason, I'm kind of like a little bit sure that someone's gonna be dealt by trade deadline. So uh, it's half and half. Thing is, this is the first time that Zion is gonna get a premium point guardish player alongside him, and I think Northern Pelicans is smart enough to really allow those two to play together and put their system starting off those two.
Absolutely. I saw Paolo Banchero taken at 39. That is just far too rich for me in a category league. What do you think about that?
I think King loves Paolo Banchero.
He
If you ask
absolutely
King,
does.
he's all into
Absolutely
Paolo
does.
Banchero.
Yeah.
Whoever's watching, if you see someone picking Paolo Banchero, and I think that's Malik Monk at the same time, every league, that's probably Adam King. So shout out to Adam King. But Paolo Banchero, I get the reason why people love him, because he has a stellar performance last season. Thing is, it's more of like a surface performance. So if you check the stats, if you play fantasy and you see the percentages and the combination of stats, he's not there yet, but he's going up. He's trending up. If it, is that actually a reach? Uh, Probably yes, but the thing is, he scores. He does a lot of things. He's just inefficient. So it's gonna be depending on the build or strategy that GMs have for Paolo Banquero.
Absolutely. Now, after Bankero at 39, at 40 was Franz Wagner, 41, Jalen Johnson, who I did want as well, but I think he does have another level to take it to this season, followed by Evan Mobley, which I think is solid. It would be fantastic for his value if Jarrett Allen, which was taken, or he was taken 2 picks later, but if he does happen to be traded at any stage of the future, I think Evan Mobley is just going to explode. In the meantime, I'm okay with him in this region. Desmond Bain was then taken at pick 43. Jared Allen, as I said, was taken at 44. Miles Turner straight after that. So a couple of big guys there. Derek White, do you think he'll return to a similar level to last season? Obviously, no Kristaps Porzingis. Does he have a little bit more room to play with at the start of the season?
Yeah, I think he should actually get more touches while Kristaps Porzingis is out. We've seen the Boston Celtics play smaller, wherein Jason Tatum sometimes defends the big man of the opposite team. Maybe not the Embiid type teams, but other teams, I think they could work it out. I doubt that Al Horford's gonna spend a lot of time playing, right? So I'm expecting mix and match and possibly involving Jason Tatum in the front court. So with that said, they might eventually allow players like Jalen Brown and of course D White and even Drew Holiday for more usage than last year.
Now, you took Jimmy Butler at the end of the fourth round at pick 48. Take us through that one.
Uh, we all know the problem for Jimmy Butler, playing games and all, but I think it's a value there. Fourth round, getting an elite free throws for Jimmy Butler. You also have a scoring and of course steals. So it really matches what I wanted to do here, locking in my free throw percentage. So it allows me to get big man that can shoot later, that can still block, and also it gives me boost my points. So later on when I get defensive stats, I still have a wiggle room to get the players like Eamon Thompson.
Yeah, and then you followed that up with Darius Garland, so a nice boost to your assist there.
Exactly, and then since I'm kind of like ignoring field goal percentage. I'm cool with Darius Garland. I think it's a bounce back season for Darius Garland. I'm excited for Kenneth Atkinson's system. It's going to be a usual up tempo 2-man game, which I think Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jarrett Allen, and even Mobley can play all together. The thing that we just need to confirm is how would that work for them, because Kenny Atkinson, on the other hand, whilst being a coach that is pro offense, he's also not pro big minutes. So it's a little bit of balance between, hey, how would this impact players that is gonna play lesser than usual?
Absolutely. Now, I need some big men. First guy, I think Nick Claxton. Yes, there's going to be concerns around nets and possibly tank season, but I still think Nick Claxton's solid in this area, so I'm taking him here. Do I double up with another big man, Papi, or do I just go for out and out value? Now, I do like Zach LaVine, but it is still a little bit murky. Tobias Harris, I think he's a bit of a target of mine as well. I'm going to take Tobias. I think new scenery. He's going to have more to do than he did in Philly, so I have taken him there.
Yeah, and in limited minutes in a row last year, he was still within top 75, right? So, now with, better role, I think he can either replicate that or be better.
Yeah, and I guess the only concern, again, similar to Nick Claxton, but the Pistons, do they shut it down? Does he take a bit of a hit, play some of the younger guys closer to the end of the season?
Yeah, I agree. Especially with, the direction that the Detroit Pistons has been taking. They're trying to get good young players, but is always end up with the fifth pick for some
Absolutely.
weird reason.
Now, I want to pick your brain about a real favorite of mine, Emmanuel Quickly. Now, he was taken at pick 56. Do you think that's right? Do you think that's around the spot that he should be taken?
Yeah, I think he should be picked in this area, round 5. I was actually contemplating between him and Darius Garland. I just end up picking Darius Garland just for more stability. I think Emmanuel quickly. There were several instances end of the season wherein when they play together, he actually is up. Is almost getting the same touches with Scotty Barnes, right? So I think he's up there. When he was in New York, he's already with, I think that's around top 80 ish, right? With limited minutes. Now with more minutes, I think he can really put numbers.
I'm just looking at a team. Dylan, I'm pretty sure he is a follower of mine and he's from Perth as well. So where I am, I'm liking his team. So he took Emmanuel quickly, as we just spoke about. Before that, he took Jalen Johnson, but he's just then taken Zach Levine. So look, there's a bit of value there, but do you still think that it's a little bit risky taking Levine, knowing that there's now Giddy, obviously Kobe White's still there, Ayo Dosunmu's still there? Is it too murky in that backcourt? And Josh Giddy
Yes,
just got taken straight after Zach Levine, which is interesting as well.
back to back Bulls, right? Yeah, I think it's Zach Levine is still a good option here. To be honest, there's gonna be also an alternate universe wherein Zach Levine still gets, his shots when he's back. The thing is, this is probably not stat based, but come to think of it, Chicago Bulls is having a hard time to trade Zach Levine because of his contract, right? So if Zach Levine gets a good season to at least make sense out of that contract, it's gonna be good for both sides. So maybe that's a motivation.
Yeah, talk us through your next pick. You're almost on the clock. What do you need? What are you thinking? Who are you targeting?
Well, usually I try, since it's a back to back pick. One of the reason why I love back to back picks, either from the first or last, I usually try to get one value and one out of strategy. So I'm thinking of a value here. Well, it's also something that I needed right now. I needed a big, so I'm gonna go Mark Williams to pump up my rebounds and couple of blocks as well. And then assist and point is gonna go down at this point. So let me get someone like Bradley Beal that can
Yeah.
still also pump my free throws, hold it back, and hopefully plays better this season.
Yeah, and we did see glimpses of him towards the end of last season. He did really look nice. But you're not scarred from last season where he did let a lot of people down. He was taken sort of in the mid rounds, but the start of that season was just horrific in terms of injuries.
Do you think Tyus Jones plays a lot of minutes, DMAC?
By all accounts, he's starting. I don't know if he's going to play a lot of minutes. I think for me, he's probably more like that 28-minute sort of guy. So I think that's still enough for Tyus Jones to have value. But then I think where you're headed with this conversation is, does that take away some of Bill's value?
Yeah, because I was thinking, uh, if Tyus Jones comes to the mix, so he's gonna take away playmaking chores so from Devin Booker and from Bradley Beal, right? So that's couple of assists out from those two, but probably better shots and more shooting. So that's something that we have to also analyze just because of expectation. So maybe
Sure.
you're drafting Devin Booker because you're thinking he's still gonna give you additional assist for this season. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah. Now, we've just seen three centers go in a row. Brook Lopez. So Brook was taken at pick 78. I'm not so sure about that one. I think he's on the decline. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. And not only that he's aging and is on a decline, I think the Milwaukee Bucks and Coach Doc Rivers is using him differently. So that's something that fantasy GMs should also consider. You should also consider the change in coaches and what's the historical system and how the coaches uses their players.
Absolutely. And something I should consider is my draft pick, which I was not focused and this learn from that. But I did need a big guy. And I think Yucca Purtle's in for a big season. Now I've got my back to backs here. Well, this is why you need to be prepared. I'm not going to take Tyus Jones, even though we just spoke about him. I think there's a bit of value with old man Chris Middleton, but is that cutting off any type of value? Do I go there? Look, I'm going to go there. I went there, my friend. I went there. But Jakob, I needed those blocks and those rebounds, and as I said, I think he's in for a big season this season. Chris Middleton, bit of a bounce back, but temper some expectation. But I'm okay with him around that spot.
Yeah, I mean, come to think of it, if Chris Middleton or Damian Lillard or Giannis Antetokounmpo miss a lot of games this season again, then their door to try to win a championship is really closing. So I think there's a motivation for them. I understand some fantasy analysts, kind of like discounts that non-fantasy or not non-stat factor. But then again, if it's gonna happen in reality, then it's gonna happen in fantasy, right?
Yeah. Now, in this mock draft, has there been anything that's really surprised you?
Well, first round, Joel Embiid in the who slid pick 10,
Pick
right?
10. You
Yeah.
think that's a
So
slide? You comfortable taking him in a head-to-head category league?
uh, actually, yeah, I'm kind of like comfortable. Then if it's a premium league that is super serious, big money, I'm not gonna pick Joel Embiid. But in general, I'm not that afraid of drafting Joel Embiid.
Okay. So let's say it was a high stakes league. How high is too high for Joel Embiid?
Probably after Jason Tatum,
Right. Okay.
or
So a bit
around
of
pick
stability with Tatum.
8.
Right. Okay. You're willing to go up to pick 8, pick 9 for Embiid.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 rounds earlier than what he's drafted. I mean, technically, he was the number one fantasy player last season at some point, still number one per game. So I
Mhm.
don't want to discount that. I understand the injury and all, but it's fantasy. We have to be,
Yeah.
try to explore.
Now, does Paul George's addition actually hurt some of his per game value anyway?
Yes, but it also unloads the usual big load that he takes away from him. So essentially it's good for me. I see it as a
Okay.
good impact for Joel Embiid.
Yeah. So my thoughts around Embiid is I think 10 is probably still too high for me in a head to head. Roto, absolutely. You take him probably even a little bit earlier there. But my concern is that the 76ers want him to be healthy for once and fully fit for the playoffs. That's where it really matters. The window for the process is closing. Do they really care? He's not chase. I don't think he can chase any more MVPs. Do they care about fantasy? Absolutely not. So that's my concern, that they are going to load manage and it's going to be heavier than normal. Now, you've just taken Jalen Suggs at the end of the 8th round, followed by Walker Kessler. I like that Walker Kessler pick. Does he start this season for the Jazz?
I think he starts. I think it's a matter of like number one, how many minutes he's gonna play. Number two is down the road, will he continue to start? So those are gray areas for me. There's also rumors that he's one of the players that Utah Jazz or Danny H wants to trade away. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. But then again, at this point, with Victor Wembanyama, it's just me locking blocks right now. So I have to get one good blocker.
I think you are absolutely dominant in the blocks. You've got Wemby, JJJ. Mark Williams doesn't get you those elite blocks, but still gets you a handful. And Walker Kessler, I think that's icing on the cake in terms of blocks. Is that too heavy on blocks? Are you're comfortable with that?
I think I'm comfortable with that. I was thinking, um, just in case. So it's just a matter of like every game I have a blocker. So in head to head, I think that's important. Another thing is we all know that sometimes Jaren Jackson's field goal percentage goes down. That goes as well with Jalen Brunson. So if they go up, then I'm gonna kill a lot of teams because I have good
Absolutely.
percentage guys.
CP3, 99th. I don't mind that one. I don't think he plays every game, and I think his minutes are going to be less than what we've seen historically. But I think as a um, when you need those assists late in a draft, I think he's a great pick there. Amen Thompson, then 101st. I don't mind it. It's aggressive. I don't mind it. I think it's a lot earlier than I've seen. But what do you think?
Yeah, actually, the players that you mentioned are the players that I was contemplating to pick. So I wanted Chris Paul, just to lock in some assist. But I usually pick him, so I tried Jalen Suggs just to pump steals, and I'm actually interested with Jalen Suggs' role right now. Without Markel Fultz, there could be a path to really leap in terms of fantasy. So I want to get some upside pick for Jalen Suggs. Amen Thompson is similar to Jalen Suggs. Whenever they get good minutes, they deliver. Actually, they over deliver. So I think this is a good pick for Amen Thompson.
Now I'm on the clock here. I still need to boost up some of my big man stats, but look, Naz Reid is not your traditional big man, but I like him around this spot, around that 100 to 110. I think he's got some value there. Obviously, that value was boosted if Cat and or Gobert are sidelined. I also do think I need some steals, but Mitchell Robinson, it's probably a bit of a stretch at this point because I'm still not 100% on his health. Another guy that stands out for me is Keontae George. I'm going to go Caruso. Okay. So Caruso at 109th. I don't think he repeats what he did last season, an absolute elite season in terms of fantasy at the Bulls, but he's going to be a key piece on that OKC juggernaut. Colin Sexton followed up at pick 110. Any other surprises that you can think of? Oh, I did see that Onyeka Okongwu, he did go a few picks earlier, so he got taken at pick 104, which will please our good friend Eric. 104, I think. Do you think he starts or is it Capella?
I think it's still Capella. But at this point, with all the moves that the Atlanta Hawks did, they should really give Onyeka Okongwu better minutes, right? I think this should be the season that they probably, tone down Clint Capella's minutes and let Onyeka Okongwu play, or maybe trade Clint Capella. I don't know if it's something that fits the contract or whatnot, but
Mhm.
I don't mind Onyeka Okongwu being picked in that area.
I like Okongwu. I think whatever shenanigans happened with Rissa Shea and Alex Sarr and not taking Alex Sarr, didn't want to work out with them, whatever it was, I think they're putting their confidence in on Onyeka Okongwu. He was a high draft pick a few seasons ago. We know what he can do we know what he was able to do when Capella was sidelined, and he does have that potential. But whether or not that's realised earlier in this season, we'll wait and see. But I've got a feeling he will start. May not be on opening night, but it will happen at some stage. Now, Jonathan Kuminga taken in the 7th pick of the 10th round, 115. I like it because who else is going to do all the amazing stuff? It can't just be left for Steph. So I think Jonathan Kuminga definitely needs to step up. Otherwise, the Warriors are going to be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, and I forgot the numbers, but they're about to also give a good amount of money to Jonathan Kuminga. So that kind of like at least shows us how GSW values Kuminga.
Particularly when you heard a lot of market and trade rumors sort of centered around Kuminga and a few of the other younger guys as well. Derek Lively went 2 picks after, so he went at 117. I really like Lively. I know Gafford went in the previous round, but if I had to pick between the two, I'm taking Lively. Maybe a bit of a controversial, but I think Lively just has the higher upside as well. Mitchell Robinson taken after Lively as well. I like it if it turns out that he does start. There's some rumors that he's not 100% fit, but let's wait and see on that one. And then Shaden Sharp, that's a nice one, I guess. Still a young Portland team in rebuild mode. He presents a lot of different options for them. Now you're on the clock. You've taken Pazjemski. I love it. There's talk of him taking a lot more 3-pointers. Do you believe that? Do you believe that's going to happen?
I think so. I think he's gonna take a jump from his role. He was actually playing like a point guard, compo guard in the US Select, so I love that about him. So now I'm contemplating if I'm gonna take Clay Thompson. Where's Clay Thompson? There you go. So I want to beef up my snipes. And who else could I think of? Of course, Clay Thompson. I was thinking it's either Cam Johnson or Clay Thompson. My problem about Cam Johnson is he could be dealt, and it could be a bad situation if it gets traded and it's just go back to as a backup forward ish that plays 20 minutes or so. So I'm gonna take a better and more established role with Clay Thompson.
Absolutely. And it's sort of the young and the old, Pajemski and now Clay Thompson back to back. That's really interesting. Do you think Clay starts? I think the assumption is that he will start in Dallas.
I think he should start. They are actually boasting the their ability to stretch the floor with Clay Thompson, because Clay Thompson was telling that it almost work without a solid shooter. Now that I'm there, it should work, right? But actually, to be honest, I'm actually more excited with Najee Marshall. He's the new defensive guy in the mix. I think he's better than Derek Jones Jr. So technically, I'm more excited on his impact. But of course, Clay is Clay. So I would love to see Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, and Clay Thompson shooting the lights out in some of the games.
Yeah, I think Clay's going to get a lot of open looks with Kyrie and Luca doing their thing as well, particularly driving to the basket and kicking out to Clay. I think there's going to be a lot of nice open looks for him. I think it's really difficult for Clay to create his own shot these days, but I think with Kyrie and Luca, I think it'll work nicely. Now, Scoot was just taken 128th. I like it. This is where you start taking your flyer picks. And yes, Scoot was very disappointing last season, but he's still got the high pedigree. Obviously, Dame was moved from the Trailblazers. They're going to have to make room for Scoot Henderson. So there's still talk of him being the sixth man, but I still think that's a great pick this late in a draft. Now I need to start thinking about my pick. Al Horford just got taken. He's a really nice roto play and not too bad in terms of late round value here. All right. Yeah, let's have a look. Do I go any rookies?
It's almost time.
Almost
Last
done.
couple of picks. It should be flying by now. Flying by now. Let me
I think
see
so.
who are the available players.
Yep.
There's one player here I think that I see you picking a couple of drops.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go against what I normally do, but I'm taking Dyson Daniels. Now, in terms of late round picks, I've been very big on a few in terms of flyers, and they haven't been taken off the board yet. So there's still an opportunity. I know you've got a couple of picks coming up, so you'll probably snipe me there. So thank you very much. Andre Drummond. So he was taken. Let's have a look at this guy's team. No, that's not a handcuff for Embiid, but Drummond was taken at pick 134. Is that thinking that Embiid's going to miss a fair amount of time?
Probably, but even because here's the thing, Andre Drummond is still a fantasy monster. He's a per minute guy, even better probably than Paul Reed was, just because how Paul Reed was used. So I get the strategy here, and there's still upside just because of Joel Embiid. So at this point, as long as you're happy to actually have first couple of games without a lot of stats, then go for it.
Yep. Now you're on the clock here. Let's see if you snipe me with some of my late round guys. No, you've taken Ben Simmons. Interesting.
Yes.
Take us through that after you do your next pick.
Yeah, let me just pick another one. Oh, I have to pick this guy. Do I have a lot of Golden State Warriors? I think he's the second one. So I'm gonna go Andrew Wiggins. Um Ben Simmons, well, I think I'm hitting two birds in one stone. Ben Simmons, it's last couple of picks. If it doesn't work, I'm just gonna drop him. But I needed to pump couple more stats, specifically assist and steals, so it matches what I needed. And then before his recent injury after resting, he's actually providing decent amount of stats, almost triple double-ish numbers. So with a lot of changes, specifically Mikal Bridges going away from the Brooklyn Nets, he again is in the position to hopefully redeem himself at least, I don't know, couple of percentage of it. So with low expectation as last pick, I think it's a good spot for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, it's a bit of a no risk situation here, and we know how good he can be if he does stay on the floor as well. So, and Wiggins is a good pick as well. There's going to be more opportunity for him to perform. Norman Powers, again, low upside, but he will have more to do. I've got the last pick of the draft, and this is my favorite late round flyer, Noah Downey. I think there is going to be an opportunity for him to show his wares for the Nets throughout the season. So that is the end of the draft. What do you think, Roy? Any surprises?
Not much. I think in comparison to the usual drafts I've been with, at least mock drafts, James Harden and Anthony Edwards usually are being picked start of the second round. So that's kind of like a slide. That goes as well with Lamelo Ball. Lamelo Ball is kind of like torn. There's some wherein he really slides, some wherein aggressively back-to-back picks. The last pick, they actually target Lamelo Ball. What else here? I think
Do you want to take us through your team, starting with Wemby, of course?
sure. So, of course, I got Wemby. Maybe let me there you go. So let's start off with Wemby. I think that's a no-brainer. So it's just a matter of like how you handle Wemby. So earlier I was thinking that I'll try to ignore field goal percentage and turnovers in my build, given that sometimes Victor Wembanyama tends to really shoot a lot. Uh, Not saying that I'm gonna go hard punt, but it's more of like really ignoring a couple of stats. So I went back to back with Triple J just to really support the blocks that Victor Wembanyama has, and also protecting the free throw percentage. Back to back with couple of good free throw percentage guys that I think is gonna pull my percentages, including other picks from the latter part of this draft. So I have Jalen Brunson and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is kind of like, a hopeful pick because at fourth round, which is someone that can provide you a second round value, I think that's a solid pick for me as long as he plays. Darius Garland, a
But
bounce
just going
back.
back to Jimmy Butler, did you hear the rumors that the Nets could be seeking Jimmy for next season, which is interesting. Complete rumor, but yeah, something I heard
Yeah.
today.
I mean, if you create a storyline, it's a good storyline because there was like a comment from Pat Riley couple of months ago, right? So if they're trying to create a narrative, it could make sense. So that I don't know if you kind of like someone that really is being swayed by those rumors, then I totally understand if you don't like the Jimmy Butler pick. Um, After that, I went with Darius Garland. I mentioned this a while ago, and aside from the explanation I mentioned with Kenny Atkinson, I also started to try to put in more assists at this point. So I have Jalen Brunson and Jimmy Butler doing that, then adding Darius Garland. So that pumps up my assist. Then I haven't gotten another big man. I understand that there's gonna be a big man run, so I want to get rebounds at this point. So I got Mark Williams, possibly another player that I'm hopeful to be healthy this season. Followed by Bradley Beal. So these are a little bit veteran players that are tested. It just so happened they're injured last year. I think Bradley Bill can crush this value or a rank here at pick at round number 7. So I'm good with that. Then I started to think more upside. That's the reason why I pick Jalen Suggs and Walker Kessler, basically locking blocks and then also getting additional steals because there are players like like Darius Garland who doesn't have, and Bradley Beal who doesn't have a lot of steals. So maybe Jalen Suggs can actually provide that. Then I have pods because I there's at this point it's hard to get good assist. So pods is someone that can provide me 3 points, which I needed. plus assists that he could provide. Not in big chunks, but I still think with how he played last year and how he played in the US select team, he's gonna provide at least 4 or 5 ish assists per game. So that's good value for me. Clay Thompson for snipes. Ben Simmons, just a roll the dice pick that gives me assists and steals. And then to cap it off, Andrew Wiggins. I wanted to pick someone younger, but I just can't, take a pass on Andrew Wiggins. He's been through a lot. I think that's the only problem. He's been through a lot personally. The percentages were shaky. Hasn't scored a lot, but I hopefully the rest from the off season is gonna help him.
Yeah, I think play going probably helps his value as well. So I really like that last round pick of yours, Roy. Now, quickly going through mine. We're not going to go through every single team, but I'll quickly go through mine. Steph Curry. So pick 12 in the first round, followed by Kevin Durant. I went Jalen Williams. I really do get super excited by this guy. I think he's, in terms of dynasty value, I think he's a top 20, top 25 type of guy. So end of the third round there. Start of the fourth, I took DeJounte Murray. I was deciding between DeJounte or Jalen Johnson, who's been one of my favorites for a while. Fifth round, end of the fifth round, I took Nick Claxton. I think there's a little bit of value there, but I also needed the big man stats. Tobias Harris, I think he's got more to do in Detroit this season, so I like him at the start of the sixth round. It would have been nice if I could get him a little bit later, but on the turn, I was fine with that. Jakob Poeltl, end of the seventh round, followed by Chris Middleton at the start of the eighth. In hindsight, probably a little bit too early, but I'm okay with it. I think he'll come in a lot better than he did last season. And there's still some concerns around some injuries and whatnot, but I don't mind that one there. Naz Reid, I think around that 100 to 110 mark, I think is fine. And he just provides some nice points as well for a big man. Alex Caruso, I desperately needed some steals just to help out Jalen Williams up top there. So grab Caruso, hoping he somewhat replicates what he was able to do last season. Malik Monk, just for some scoring punch and some assists as well. Dyson Daniels. Now, this is something I didn't hit you up with, but do you think Dyson Daniels starts alongside of Trae Young?
Yeah, I think so. He did well in the Olympics, and I think it's gonna help Trey Young because he's gonna get a defensive backcourt, so which he has been possibly wanting for quite some time. DeJounte Murray kind of like did that, but I don't know. Maybe there's something that we don't know. That's the reason why they didn't work.
Yeah, so I'm comfortable taking him there. There's talk of maybe Bogdan Bogdanovic starting, but I think Bogdan is really suited as that sixth man. He was really in the running for Sixth Man of the Year award last season, so I think he'll retain that role, but I could be wrong there. And my final pick, and I've pretty much done this in every single mock that I've been in, Noah Clowney. I think there's potential that he'll start at some stage, maybe not on opening night, but at some stage he'll start. And we saw flashes of brilliance from this young guy at the end of last season. So a bit of a fly pick for that last round there, but I think that's where you need to do it. So thank you very much, Papi. Let us know what you're doing. What's coming up for you?
Oh, so I'm super excited in our fantasy basketball Filipino community. So currently today, all of the fantasy basketball PH leagues are completed and they're about to start. We have, I think that's 15 or 16 leagues was opened a couple of weeks ago and it's now completed. Super excited with that. Plus, we are going to implement our own community ranking system this year. So we are about to pilot some innovation for our community to make the community stronger and hopeful that even though we're kind of like small in actual basketball, in fantasy, I think we're gonna make some noise.
Absolutely. And you've got some global leagues at the moment, don't you? You've got Filipinos versus, I think, some analysts from around the world.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, so we are going to we did a qualifier league last season called Mount Rushmore, and then whoever qualified with that 8 out of the 16 of the teams last season is going up against 8 fantasy analysts or personalities around the world, and I think I've already invited you, Dimak and Kayla, to be in the top 8. I also have Dan Titus, Adam King, and a couple more to add, and it's going to be exciting. So I'm gonna put in a little bit flavor to justify the Philippines versus the world concept. So I'm gonna put some scoring points, so at least we, aside from winning the league, we get to enjoy the kind of like the team flavor of that league. Plus, I'm working on sponsors. So I'm currently in the conversation to get some sponsors for that league. So hopefully I lock them out. So we got good amount of prizes afterwards. So yeah, super excited for that league.
Loving it, loving it. I had a coffee with Adam King today here in Perth. He was just on holiday and he was talking about that league as well. So we're both really excited and looking forward to taking on Team Philippines. I'll be sort of in both camps, won't I? Team World and Team Philippines.
You'll be our rat.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
tell us
Double agent.
what you're trying to plan.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. That's been another episode of Between Two Hoops. Until next time, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.